Chinese products are trash. They're awful and substandards, nothing but a bunch of plastic junk, junk, junk. Have you ever talked to someone about Chinese made goods and heard them express opinions like this? So, is it really true? Is the quality of products made in China really that bad? Let's find out. I'm Billy Miner, Marketing Manager for Insight Quality Services, and I am joined today by Andy Church. He's the founder of Insight Quality, and he founded Insight in 2014, so about 10 years ago now. And since that time, we have conducted thousands upon thousands of uh, quality inspections of products in Chinese factories all over the country of China. So he is actually the perfect person to ask this question. So I'd like to get your thoughts, Andy. Is it true? Are Chinese made products just trash?
Well, Billy, good question, and something that we've often received comments on our blog about, and people's, commentary and opinion. And a phrase I've often used over the years is quality begins with the buy. And so there are products that aren't very good quality coming out of China, but there's also products that aren't very good quality being made in the US. So the short answer to that question is yes, sometimes, but that doesn't take into account the reality of the situation.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that there's really more nuance to the situation than some people are led to believe. I mean, I've seen the comments on the blog, and people have these very strong opinions. So a lot of people think that the sole reason why so many companies make their products in China is just that China is extremely cheap, that China's labor costs are really low, and so they can just go to China and make a bunch of junky products, and that's really all there is to it. But I don't think that's really the reality of why companies manufacture in China. It's interesting to note that Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, stated very famously that there's confusion about China. The popular conception is that companies come to China because of low labor costs. And he says, I'm not sure what part of China they go to, but the truth is, China stopped being a low labor cost country many years ago. And that is not the reason to come to China from a supply point of view. The reason is because of the skill and the quantity of skill in one location and the type of skill it is. So could you give us your perspective about, why do so many companies manufacture their products in China?
Many companies continue to manufacture their products in China because China is efficient, they have scale, and they have a mature supply chain ecosystem. But the reality is, and it's no secret, that the labor rates in China are no longer cheap. They may be cheaper than the U.S. or some of the Western countries, but the reality is, Chinese factories to be competitive, and when you factor in shipping rates and the cost of transporting goods across the oceans, that Chinese factories need to be efficient. And regardless of the country, good products require supplier development and quality management. And as I mentioned, in China's supply chain ecosystem, many factories have mature quality management systems in place. And so while China isn't as cheap as it used to be, there are several factors that go into the decision to make product in China or in the Far East.
It's interesting to note that if you take a look at this graph of wages in China
from the year 2012 to the year 2023, which is the most recent year, the average annual wage in China has gone from 47,600 Chinese yuan to 121,000 Chinese yuan. And that's actually an increase of about 2.5 times. So wages have gone up pretty significantly.
So you are in Dallas now, but you first went to China in 2002 to work in the quality control industry. So that's been more than 20 years now. And you've really been able to see the evolution of Chinese manufacturing over time. So, with that in mind, how would you say that Chinese manufacturing has changed over the years?
It's hard to believe that I first stepped into a China factory over 20 years ago. I guess it was didn't have much grade then, but the Chinese factories have definitely evolved. I recall that like a tier one factory that would be equivalent to something we'd see in the US with good lighting and well striped and some automation was a rarity. And now that's much more common. Increased automation wherever possible is being used in Chinese factories. Finally, Chinese factories have learned the requirements of their buyers in the West, in the US, and Europe, and Canada. And so, the Chinese factories have evolved to the point where they're very competitive with the level of quality coming out, and in most cases, still very cost effective to continue to produce products in China. So the Chinese manufacturing has evolved over time to be, world class in many cases.
Sure, there are some low quality products coming from various manufacturers, but there are also kind of leading companies, even Chinese companies like DJI, for example. They are considered the world's leader in drones, and they're very revered for the quality of their products. So I guess what we're saying is there's a kind of a nuance here where there's a range of products that you can manufacture in China. There are some manufacturers that are not so great, and there are some that are like world class, and then there are, shades in between. With that being said, since there are still low quality products coming out of China, why is that the case? What is it about these products or about the companies that are selling them that makes them so low quality?
One of the phrases I've often used over the years is, and I probably already said it in our conversation right now, is that quality begins with the buy. You mentioned that the range of quality is wide, and I've sometimes used a car as an example. We look at, we have a economy model of one of the mainstream manufacturers, and then you have a very high-end luxury or sports car. They both are cars. There's no equivalent in the comfort level, the power of the engine. Another maybe more common product we use every day is a pen. We have pens that we know that they're disposables in hotel rooms. They're designed for short time use, maybe a couple hundred writing cycles, and the ink's gone. And then we have high-end gel style pens that you can write 10,000, 100,000 strokes before the ink goes out. And the cost on those could be a penny a pen versus 40 cents or 50 cents. Doesn't sound like very much difference in price, but when you consider the use, and maybe some are free promotional items and others we use every day to sign contracts, or not many people write checks anymore, but if you write a check. And so quality is wide ranging. And the buyer who places an order with the factory buyers can have very different requirements depending on their ultimate client and customer. So it's quality ranges within a factory, within a country, and a region based on many factors.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, there are various factors that can impact the quality of these goods. And if a consumer product brand wants to get the best quality, they need to be proactive about it. So, what are your tips for manufacturing high quality products in China? So, if you're talking to the owner or an employee at a consumer product company and they want to achieve the best possible quality, how do they do that? What are your tips for them?
Setting clear expectations, both internally and with your supplier. Consider supplier vetting, including audits. Is your factory capable of producing the products that you want to place an order for? Do they have the capacity to grow with you and quality systems in place? Develop a quality management plan. Require your suppliers and your factories to have a quality management plan. Many issues can develop and arise due to design, so consider design review. We have resources that we can work with and help you manage having a professional review your designs of your product, and also be cognizant that quality fade can happen over time. It's important to not only conduct due diligence at the beginning of a potential new supplier arrangement or selection, but also periodically, every year, 18 months, 2 years, ensure that the factory hasn't digressed, that they're staying on top of their updates and revisions to their quality program, potential manufacturing enhancements. And so I think that the key is setting clear expectations, communicate those expectations to your suppliers, develop a quality management plan if you don't have one already currently in place, and continually to update it, and recognize that it's important to have a culture of continuous improvement.
Yes, so continuous improvement is key, as you said. And really, it seems like the responsibility for quality ultimately falls on the brand. And so each consumer product brand needs to decide how important quality is and what their goals are for their product in order to make the appropriate choices and investments. So, Andy, if you have just one message that you want to bring home about quality of products made in China, what would it be?
Excellent question, Billy. I think the message I have regarding quality of products in China is that there are poor quality goods coming out of China, and there's quality products, I mean, that are 10 out of 10 that are excellent. And this isn't anything new, a conversation that this is a conversation that isn't new. It's one that's been happening since I first stepped in foot in China in the early 2000s. So it's very important to set expectations, communicate those expectations with your supplier, and have a quality program and process in place to ensure that the goods you order from China meet the quality requirements that you establish.
That's fantastic advice, Andy. So, with that said, to our audience, if you have any thoughts about the quality of products made in China, be sure to let us know in the comments. What do you think? Are Chinese products, really that bad, or are they fantastic, or is there a lot more nuance to the situation? So give us your thoughts. And also, if you are a consumer product brand and you need help managing quality in China, we have a great team on the ground who can go to your factory to conduct audits to assess, your manufacturer's quality systems or capabilities, and they can go to the factory while the products are in production or before they ship to verify that they meet your standards for quality.